What's your first thought when you think of Florida? Disney World? Florida man? Well, let me add one more thing to your list. Testing ground for Project 2025. In recent years, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has enacted the unconstitutional Stop Woke Act, which limits discussions of race, gender, and other DEI topics in the classroom and adds strict new regulations on unions. He's also signed into law a measure that erases all mentions of climate change from state statutes, and he's enacted a 6-week abortion ban. Now, all of that might sound familiar because it echoes the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, which, among other things, calls for ending diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the workplace and across education, limiting worker rights to organize through unions, and enacting a national abortion ban. Trump has disavowed any links to Project 2025, but this is also the man who says that he didn't know Kamala Harris was black. So, joining me now, Nikki, chair of the Florida Democratic Party. Nikki, it's always so good to see you. Frankly, it's scary. It's terrifying how much Project 2025 echoes Ron DeSantis' movements in Florida. Do you truly think that our state was a testing ground for this extremist plan?
First of all, Katie, so good to see you, and thanks for covering this. Yes, absolutely. You know, and I've been saying that for years, just about the extremism that's come from Ron DeSantis. You know, first started as consolidation of power underneath him, taking away, stripping rights from the cabinet to the legislature to the judicial, and then enacting all those policies that you just went through. So Florida has been the lab rats of the Heritage Foundation to such a point that in Project 2025, which is Trump's Project 2025, even references Ron DeSantis throughout the 900 pages, including mentioning all of those policies that you were just alluding to. But it's also why we are in a moment here in the state of Florida, and you're seeing just the absolute eruption of energy and momentum and excitement for Kamala Harris, because Ron DeSantis and these extreme policies that are now all throughout Project 2025 have been, you know, we have been suppressed so much, and he's been standing on our necks and our backs. And so that's why you're seeing all this energy. People are finally tired of this chaos and saying enough is enough. Ron tried taking these policies across the country for his presidential run. Obviously, that didn't fail. Americans rejected that policy and those proposals, just like they're doing Project 2025 and Donald Trump.
You know, Nikki, another thing that kind of strikes me is if you don't care about the policies, maybe you care about your pocketbook. So, for example, a federal judge has entered a permanent injunction against Ron DeSantis and part of the Stop Woke Act, saying that it's illegal, it's unconstitutional to try to prevent, under the First and 14th Amendments, which deal with free speech, this idea of being able to limit DEI and being able to talk about that in a workplace when it comes to training and those types of provisions. It's taxpayers' money that goes to have to defend this litigation when it goes to court. It's taxpayers' money that's being used to have to defend the legal fees that come from Ron DeSantis basically mobilizing the Florida Attorney General's office to do his bidding. I mean, so the idea that you could look at Florida and replicate that in other states, should Trump get back into the Oval Office, should actually have a chilling effect on the idea that Trump being in the Oval and having Project 2025 be the blueprint for all states, that it should have a chilling effect on voters that would think maybe twice about now getting somebody like Donald Trump back in office.
Absolutely. And Katie, to your point, that since Ron DeSantis became governor and started enacting all of these pieces of legislation, even going after Disney a couple of years ago, to decimation of our public education system here in our state, you have seen lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit that he's losing in the courts, even in courts that were judges appointed by Donald Trump. And those are taxpayer dollars that are not only having to pay for the attorney's fees, and because not only is it not just the Attorney General's office, but we have really high cost, expensive attorneys that are representing the state of Florida. And even one of the hearings that happened this week that said that this ban on the Stop Woke Act is actually going to have to pay the attorney's fees for the businesses that we're suing. I mean, these are, you know, coming from what supposedly the Republican Party used to always talk about conservatism and lowering the cost for people. Unfortunately, here we've seen time and time again, even on his moving of immigrants from Texas to Martha's Vineyard, we're still in litigation on those issues. These are things that are really seeing a huge impact on the people of our state. And of course, that is why you are seeing, again, this momentum across the entire country. People don't want Trump's Project 2025. They don't want extremism. They're tired of the chaos. And that is why you're seeing this momentum for Kamala Harris, not just here in the state of Florida, but across the entire country. Even here in our state, since Kamala Harris became the candidate, over 16,000 volunteers all across the state of Florida that have been wanting to get involved in this campaign, including over 300 people in Matt Gaetz's own district. We saw 500 golf carts last weekend in the Villages, which is historically a very red area. The energy on the ground here is palpable because of the suppression that we've seen here in the state of Florida. And the country has already rejected Ron's blueprint for America from Florida, and they're going to do the same thing for Donald Trump.
And we also have constitutional right to an abortion on the ballot in November in a state like Florida, even though we have Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. You know, Nikki, I do want to give you your flowers, though, as I say goodbye to you. This is all happening under your tenure as the chair of the Florida Democratic Party. So congratulations on that, and keep on fighting. Nikki Fried, it's good to see you, my friend.
Thanks, my friend. See you soon.